like learning things because the more things that I learn, the more interesting the world is. And so there's real value in that.
For sure.
And I didn't set out to learn about the number of rods in the color receptors in my eyes, nor did I leave the house this morning thinking that I would tell you about it. But there it is. You asked me what's my favorite color. It's the one I don't even know. Yeah. It's the one the mantis shrimps. It's the possibility that there's some color. Yeah. Klein blue is my second answer.
Okay. Hello, people of the world. Welcome back to another episode of Sam Sessions. We're back here in the acoustic A-room of South Austin Music. As always, a very special day today. To my right, we have Guy Forsyth. Very good to see you, sir.
Well, it's good to be here.
And the show is hosted by the world's worst interviewer. So here we go.
Man, it's an honor to meet you.
World's worst.
I've had a lot of interviews, so this is going to be real fun.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Tell people about this.
We'll give you an award when it's over. How's your day been so far?
My day is really good. I got up this morning and I went out to Mark Addison's studio and met with my friend Colin Brooks. Okay. And we were going to write songs. Mm-hmm. No songs were written today. We talked about philosophy. We talked about the impermanence of life. The illusion of matter. The grand timeline of humanity stretching over 300,000 years. We didn't write any songs, but we had a great time.
Do you ever find yourself in conversations like this, like kind of these larger than life conversations, and maybe try and find a way to draw a song from it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that what makes for really good songwriting is good observations, and observations come through our communication with other people. And the more that you can get to the nugget of the thing that you're talking about that fascinates you and might fascinate the other person or irritates you, the closer you are to distilling what is that human bit of information that can be communicated in a song. That's not the same thing as, of course, melody and harmony and rhythm, but in terms of lyricism and poetry, you have to be making an observation about something and sharing it. And the things that really matter to people are the things that you're going to have that conversation with someone about that really goes somewhere unexpected. And you're talking about something that matters to you. Yeah. And discovering that is half of songwriting.
That's really, really cool way to think about it. I've been around you a little bit. I'm excited to get to know you today. The first thing I want to ask is, because like you said, you had this really interesting conversation this morning. Are you always this much of a deep thinker, or did this morning kind of pull you into this way?
There's lots of times I'm not a deep thinker. I think that being awake and being intimate, and that can mean a lot of different things, but being intimate is something that requires some space, some time. It requires not looking at your phone. It requires not going somewhere else. You have to make a space for creating a connection with someone and allowing something to take place in that space. Yeah. If you have an agenda, if I show up with talking points, I'm not going to have a conversation with you. Right. I'm going to put forward my talking points. Yeah. And that's what we get mostly in public discourse, and certainly in a lot of relationships between employees and employers. And if you're purchasing a service through the service industry, those aren't places where conversation is really commerce isn't set up for that. That's not the business of life, right? Right. But those conversations are where the value of life. We were talking a little bit earlier about finding, does life have meaning? If life has no meaning, what is the meaning of life? And the answer being, well, what do you want it to mean? What are you going to create through your actions? And so I'm not always that much of a deep thinker. I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time playing video games and I'm drooling and sitting around in my underwear. So that's not deep thinking.
It's interesting. You almost talk in the way of like I would imagine an author would. It almost seems like you could write a book on some things. It's cool.
Well, you flatter me, and so I don't trust you. But I love reading, and and I think that my enjoyment of life, and certainly my enjoyment of language, is because of being exposed to people who use words really well.
Right.
And I'd like to be that. I don't know if I am. As a songwriter, I spent a lot of time tinkering with small clusters of words over and over, editing out single words or even just to get the right sketching, the right rhythm in words, where you might take out certain parts of words just to have them flow correctly.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of micromanaging small clusters of poetry as a songwriter. At least that's the way I've experienced it. But to do a long form novel or something like that is not anything that I've attempted. I would love to, but I don't. But I don't know what that novel is. I don't have a long form story that I'm trying to tell right now.
Well, and as a songwriter, I mean, essentially you are an author at this point. When you're writing songs,
it's writing.
That's writing a story for sure. So you're pretty much there. And quickly, I want to jump back to something you said just a minute ago. I found really interesting. You said if you show up to a conversation with talking points, it doesn't really allow you to have a real conversation.
Yeah. If I have an expectation about the way this should go, or the way that it's going to go, or if I need to make sure that I talk about my new release, and make sure that everybody knows that it's available from my website, and like that, which are the ways that we are conditioned to think that success in business and in the business of music is accessible to you,
right?
And you must do these things. You must do these things because it's good business. Those. Out of fear, we hold on to those things as tight as we can because we want to succeed. We don't want to end up, homeless, starving, things like that. And it's very frightening. But this discounts that there's any value in this conversation. There's, if I've already decided what my agenda here is, I am limiting the experience. I might get a value that I can perceive that I could force out of this experience, but it definitely takes me out of the instant.
Interesting. Okay, so on that note, in honor of Guy Forsyth here, we're going to crush up these notes. Fuck the notes. Fuck the talking points. We're going to have a real conversation here. And what's your favorite color?
I think I don't believe in colors, and it's because I only have three color rods in my eyes. But mantis shrimp have like 37. So I mean,
is that all humans have three color rods?
Yeah. You've got a what is it? It's a red, a blue, and a green, or is it red, blue, and yellow?
Is it?
Because it's
a combination.
No idea. Yeah, it's a combination. And those are the three basic colors that if you mix them, you can get the other colors. That's just the way that we as humans perceive color. Okay. But if you're like a butterfly has 7 rods, and I know this from what? I'm no scientist. I'm a guitar player. I can look in your eyes. I don't see any rods, but I'm really interested in science. Really interested in things like podcasts, and I get information on that when I drive around, and I like learning things because the more things that I learn, the more interesting the world is, and so there's real value in that.
For sure.
And I didn't set out to learn about the number of rods in the color receptors in my eyes, nor did I leave the house this morning thinking that I would tell you about it. But there it is. You asked me what's my favorite color. It's the one I don't even know. Yeah. It's the one the mantis shrimps. It's the possibility that there's some color. Yeah. Klein blue is my second answer.
Okay. You strike me as someone who doesn't miss any opportunities. Do you stumble across opportunities often, and do you seize them?
Oh, well, you're flattering me again. I would love to be the type of person that gets every possible opportunities, but anytime you walk through a door, like if you're in a square room with 4 doors, you walk through a door, there's 3 doors you can't go through. So you have to decide about the things that you do.
Okay.
And I'm sure as I've gotten older, like is normal for humans that I've seen. I get prejudiced to certain new ideas, and I like to stick with things that work for me, which is a limitation. It's a self-imposed limitation. So I wonder about the opportunities that are around me that I don't see, that are there all the time.
Yeah.
I hope that I keep trying new things and getting opportunities. But I think that's mostly about just being aware that there are so many different things around us. When you say opportunities, someone says like, do you want to come do a gig in Cuba? I'll say yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
If they, if there's an opportunity to work with an artist whose art I'm familiar with, I would say yes. If I get an opportunity to work with an artist whose work I'm not familiar with, I might say yes too, because you just don't know. And like not everything works out the way that you expect, but that's what happens when you are creating, as opposed to, trying to force something. There's a certain craft in to use music as an example. There's a certain craft of music that enables you to understand genre and to play different styles, like say bluegrass or reggae or heavy metal or blues. Now, each of those genres are tremendously deep, but once you start to understand the playing of some of the hit makers in the genre, you start to get some distinctions about it. And your ability to play with other people that have similar distinctions increases. So I might get on stage with 3 people that are playing blues that I've never met, and I have no idea what they're like or what their playing is like. But if we can, in a short conversation, agree on a couple players or tunes, classics, and then it's just like in G from the 5, and it will be what it is depending on the skill set of the people there. But we have some distinctions that we share.
Right.
It's the same in bluegrass, same in reggae, same in all of the genres, and so that has to do with craft. Like you have to do homework to make that work. But I think there's an important distinction to be made in the difference between craft and art. Art can happen when you don't know what you're going to get. Craft is when is hitting what you're aiming at. Art is not knowing what you're aiming at yet.
Interesting.
I think that there's a part of that where you have to do something that's different than what you already have done in order to access something new.
Interesting. So, are you a artist or a craftsman?
I'm both. I think that my ability as a craftsman in music gives me the ability to play with other people and to support someone else's artistic goals as well. Even if it's just like playing rhythm in a situation that enables someone else to solo. Not like I think that the band should think of it as like, it's his solo, it's her solo. It's like the band should be playing together.
Yeah.
And if someone is playing a improvised melodic lead, it is just as much an artistic choice in the way that the drummer or the bass player or the chordophone instrument, whatever it is, if there is one there, follows it. Because art is not something that we're trying to do at people. It's something we want to do together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's, so in order to get to that point, you need to have a certain amount of craft, which gives you the respect of the other musician. I get a feeling what someone is trying to go for, and I can try to help them get there. So I think craft is really an important part of art, but the main difference is knowing what you're going to get when you start makes it craft.
Yeah.
And not knowing what you're going to get when you start allows the possibility of art. Or it's always art, and maybe it's more or less successful to any one individual because it's got to be subjective because it's art.
I was gonna say, yeah, success, I guess, like means monetary value, but
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I mean, like there are a lot of different things that make money, including me hitting you on the head and taking your money. Which is honestly a business model that humans have followed for as long as there's been humans. So that's not necessarily art. I think that art allows a deeper level of communication I'm sort of spitballing here.
Right.
A deeper level of communication, a deeper level of empathy. These things can run absolutely contrary to business.
Yeah.
Because a conversation is about business allows for all sorts of different things under the header, it's just business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If I can get all of your things legally through business and leave you homeless, that's okay. That's just business, you know?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
And art tends to push people to a different conclusion, one that we are connected and that everything is really the same thing, and that your suffering isn't going to make me richer.
Yeah.
And in fact, you not suffering makes my world a better place.
Right.
You know, so that's the conclusion that I think art is pushing you to. Not that there isn't great dystopian and negative art, because I think we have to sometimes give our fears and nightmares a form. You know, like the shadow needs to be looked at sometime, because otherwise, if you're just avoiding it and ignoring it, it's not going away. It's going to end up somewhere else.
Right.
So it's a good place to, and it's really probably the best place to explore those ideas and that sort of complicated shadow side of the human psyche.
Do you agree with the statement that artists are tortured souls?
No, they don't have to be.
Okay.
Sometimes they definitely are, but it is not a necessary part.
Right.
I think you see some songwriters who just seem to effortlessly churn out fantastic work that seems to resonate with everyone, and they're not suffering. And I also know lots of people who suffer horribly and make no art.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. So I brought up the fact that you seem like you seize on opportunities pretty often, and you've opened for, I mean, countless huge names, and you've traveled, it seems like almost all over the world playing music.
I haven't been in the Southern Hemisphere.
Okay, okay. What's your favorite place you've ever been to playing music?
Well, the first one I think about was I was traveling by train, busking around Europe.
Wow.
And I got on the wrong train in Germany. I thought I was going to Frankfurt, Maine, but there's a Frankfurt Minor, a smaller one. So, and this was in 1990. And so I got to the Polish border and was woken up by people in Polish military uniforms with machine guns and asking for my papers, which I didn't have. So they put me off in the middle of the night you're at a rail station at the border. So there's not even like a city there.
Yeah.
It's just a little train station, and it's cold out. And they're just like, you wait here till the next train comes coming the other way. And there's a couple guys with big jackets and machine guns, hanging out there. And I'm hippie, and I've got an acoustic guitar bag and a little battery powered amplifier. And I took it out and started playing some music. And they were instantly my best friend. And they were like sharing coffee and showed this whole schedule. And it just took a dystopian, horrible situation just right out of like the worst type thing.
Yeah.
And just by the limited guitar ability that I had at that time, which was not great.
Yeah.
But just by playing music, they were like, oh,
yeah,
this suddenly is a much better place for everybody involved. and that's always the thing that I want. Mm-hmm. If I can somehow make that happen, that's the best place to play.
For sure.
Because it changed something. What was a kind of cold, lonely, isolated thing, it became a fucking story. It was great.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
That's what music tends to do.
Yeah, it really does. It connects us on a fundamental level and reminds us that we're all part of the same thing, and that it isn't an adversarial relationship all the time. Rather, we are all connected and we share a similar vibration, and some similar origins going back 300,000 years.
Yeah, yeah. So how old were you when this happened?
Oh, I was 21.
Okay, so I'm 23 now, and sometimes I go out of the state, right? Out of the state of Texas that I was born in sometimes. And I can't imagine being in a different country surrounded by people with assault rifles and being like, I'm going to play them a song. You know, this is my plan now. That blows me completely away. What drives you to what drove you to travel in that way at such a young age?
I'm very lucky because my family has a lot of travel in it. My dad worked for TWA. My grandfather worked for TWA. This is the airline back when it was Transamerica Airlines. My grandfather, and that's on my dad's side. And my grandfather on my mom's side was born in Japan, the son of a Seventh-day Adventist missionary in Japan in the 1930s.
Okay.
I'm lucky enough to come from people that have some experience in travel, and I can't suggest highly enough that travel is the best education, because things that you don't know what you take for granted until you go different places where so many different things are different, that it just gives you an opportunity to see things differently, and meeting people who are both very similar to you and very different.
Certainly.
You know?
Yeah, certainly.
So I was lucky.
Yeah. So you were traveling at a very early age then.
Yeah.
Kinda 'cause of your parents.
When I get on a plane, I fall right asleep because it's just like it's completely natural, and that's certainly some great advantaged entitled living there. You know, right after World War II, my folks were in the airlines. You know, so 1950s Mad Men, sort of like, cocktails and straight ties, like that's, like no better time to be a white man in the world, just like what a great, what luck.
Yeah.
Wow, hey,
Snake eyes. Yeah.
So I wish to take whatever advantage that brings seriously and try to figure out what's the most positive thing that I can do with it, because so I have been married twice. I'm in my second wedding. I've got, or second marriage. My youngest daughter is part black. This is a very real, very, very complicated issues. And how do you address them? How do you address them as a white parent of a black child?
Right.
That's complicated.
For sure.
It's so complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't have any answers. I should probably do a lot of listening. It's complicated.
Yeah.
But not having an agenda, like a bunch of bullet points, hopefully leads us to a place where we can learn something and get better at everything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Good. I mean, even like doing these interviews, it's happened before. We'll give each other notes at the end of the interview, or he'll give me notes. And a lot of times it's something like, oh, he was getting into something really cool there, and it seemed like you were focused on your next question. You asked the next question and almost interrupted. And, who knows where the conversation could have gone if you were just present in the moment,
Probably great interviewers like Larry King as an example of just someone who's like an icon of interview. Studs Terkel would be another good one. You need to have those questions because you have to do your research, because you don't know what the subject is going to be able to talk about. Because the worst thing in the world is just somebody sitting next to you giving you one syllable answers.
Yeah.
And and not giving you anything. So it's nice to have the questions as some angles that you could possibly take. But put a microphone in front of somebody and let them go, and you'll get something interesting.
Yeah, for sure. This is like a mind-blowing situation for sure. Not what I expected necessarily, but it's very exciting. You traveled all over except, I guess, the Southern Hemisphere. How do you find yourself in Austin?
I came down to Austin January 10th of 1990 from Kansas City. I had just turned 21. I had spent some time at college at the University of Kansas, KU, in Lawrence, but I had dropped out to go move down to New Orleans and live on the street there for a while first, because I had an epiphany, which was not necessarily correct, while in college, that the music that I really wanted to learn was not what I was being taught.
Interesting.
And that I thought going to New Orleans was the best education that I could get.
Yeah.
And I lived on the street and worked as a street musician and saw the music that I can. I woke up in New Orleans a lot of times and never got mail there.
Wow.
It was really great. It was really a great introduction to a lot of different types of music that I was interested in, because I was already interested in blues. I was already interested in singer-songwriters. I was already interested in the American music canon of that definitely the roots of blues and jazz. There's no more important place than New Orleans for that. I think it being a real melting pot of different influences, and it's New Orleans. It's, it's just that, and I might have ended up going there.
Yeah.
But I worked Renaissance festivals for a while after graduating high school, for a year before going to college, and then after that too, I worked as a stuntman. And playing Robin Hood in a touring Robin Hood Little John show. And so I worked with a guy much bigger than me who played Little John, and the show looked a lot like slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, it was like Larry Moe and Curly, or Commedia dell'arte, sort of physical comedy.
Yeah.
And I was playing a real sort of cartoonish version of Robin Hood for the crowd, like it was a show in the 1600s for, the crowd, so you're playing an actor and doing a show. And it was fun, and it was painful. It was like being a rodeo clown. I got beat up all through the weekend and heel for the next 5 days. And I got a harmonica when I was 16. I got a harmonica. I got a cassette tape. It was John Gindick's book, Country and Blues Harmonica for the Musically Hopeless, put out by the Klutz Press, which had a Pocket Pal 10-hole diatonic, cheapest Hohner harmonica, and a cassette tape where John Gindick talked and strummed an acoustic guitar a little bit and just talked about music as being a river, and that if you play this note, that's the 5, it's the 5th, but you don't even need to know that. It's creating tension, and then you play this note here, that's the 1 that resolves tension, and it totally demystified music in that sort of way.
Yeah.
Really, only thing it was teaching you how to do is sort of like how to play with a guitar player as a harmonica player. But it was great for me. It's like nobody ever explained this to me before. I sang in choirs and played trombone for like 2 weeks in grade school, but I didn't have any music that I identified with the trombone, so it didn't mean anything to me. I went, and then I was done. I was like, I don't know what else to do with this thing. I didn't have the listening for it. Now I wish I did. I wish if I'd go back there and I could have really, who knew it would be vocational training? I didn't.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting the things you see as a waste of time when you're young, and then you grow up and you're like, oh, that would have been very useful at this point. Yeah. How long have you been playing music for people, creating music?
Like I said, 16 when I got a harmonica for Christmas. I sang before that.
Okay.
I remember when I was younger, knowing that I knew all the words to certain songs. And so I am first and foremost a singer. And it was the voice and the use of the voice what attracted me to it. My folks had similar record collections when they got together, and so I just wrote this song like 2 weeks ago, but I'm going to play it when we do the music thing, which talks about this, because it's this has come up in some other interviews, and when I heard myself telling the same story a couple of times, I was just like, well, okay,
time to write a song.
There's a story here.
Yeah.
At the same age that I was learning how to stack blocks, I was learning how to drop the needle on a Fisher-Price record player.
Something I still can't do, by the way. I've gotten in so much trouble at people's houses trying to drop that. Yeah. Man, I did it once recently, like 2 weeks ago. I dropped it, and the guy was in the restroom, and I just hear him from the restroom go, "What the hell was that?" just scratch the shit out of it. You must have steady hands, because mine.
Yeah. Well, and I was what, like 5? So
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm only 23. I'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah, you've done a lot of nerve damage at this point. You're probably never getting that steady hand back you had when you were 5.
Yeah. This is true. Let's hire 5-year-olds as our surgeons, right?
but so early on, I listened to records, and like my whole version of like go play included putting on records, and we're gonna play blocks, but I'm gonna put the records on.
Yeah.
And so I started to know all the words to certain songs. I remember, I don't even remember how young I was, but I was probably like 10 when I knew all of the words to Time in a Bottle. If I could save time in a bottle. Yeah. And other songs, would come on. I remember hearing Short People when it came out on the radio. And listening to Short People and being like, that song isn't very nice. What? How can he? Is that? Can you say that? Is that and Randy Newman, brilliant.
Yeah.
And writing with an untrustworthy narrator. But I remember just being like, what's going on in this song?
Yeah.
Like this. The chorus is totally different than what the other stuff. It's like, just trying to understand it, just trying to wrap my head around it.
Wow.
And so I've always been attracted to lyrics and that. I had a friend who played guitar in grade school. I borrowed a guitar from another friend of mine, my friend David Maloney. This is another lyric in the song that I'll play for you.
Yeah.
He had lost both of his arms to an electrical accident when he was a kid, and so he had about this much of an arm and an articulated hook.
Wow.
And he got laid before anybody. He could kick the hat off your head at 10 foot. Best soccer player I ever knew.
That's crazy.
Unfucking stoppable, this guy. He was absolutely amazing. I borrowed my first guitar from him. He taught me how to tune it with his feet. It's a true story. It was a nylon string acoustic guitar. One of the first things I did is like, okay, I want to play steel strings, so I put some steel strings on it.
Yeah.
Bend right over. So took those off right away.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, he didn't need the hand then, huh?
Yeah. He was just an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And just somebody who had a level of resiliency which is hard to imagine. Not that people aren't really resilient.
But some more than others, for sure.
Well, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know how you're going to respond to stimuli different than any other person may respond to stimuli. Get Hitler's and Mother Teresa's.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are loud, some people are really quiet. Yeah.
Takes all kinds.
For sure, yeah. Do you feel that there's anything left you need to do in your career, or do you feel...
I don't think there's anything that I need to do because none of it matters anyway.
Right.
Eventually the last Beatles song is forgotten. What I can do and what I have the opportunity to do is to continue to get to play with and for people in a way that makes life fun.
Yeah.
I still have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
That matters. That's great. I'm still writing songs. I'm trying to write songs that make people think, that make people, feel. I don't imagine any sort of like level of success beyond this as being predictable. I don't know. I mean, how can you tell?
Yeah.
Certainly I'm at 54, I think a better musician than I've ever been, but the business of music isn't interested in quality. And, I'll fight you on this on any level, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about that. It's about commodification. It's hard to commodify music. It's hard to make music something that you can sell. It's just that's a difficult thing, and more difficult now at this particular time in history than it had been 10 years ago. So it's just it's,
Yeah.
it's a weird business to be in, right?
For sure.
Because the thing that it creates is against the business idea of competition, and like one side wins, the other side loses. So
Man, this has offered me a lot of perspective. Especially, I grow every single day and learn more every single day. And, a lot of times I'm in the perspective mindset of like, the most important thing is leaving behind a legacy, or, like leaving something that outlasts you. And so talking to you and the way you see things is really interesting and kind of eye-opening in a way. So, first of all, thank you for that, of course. And real quickly, we'll do some like kind of rapid fire questions, this or that. And then I can't wait to hear that song as well. Do you have a favorite conspiracy theory?
I think it would be the Illuminatus trilogy by Aston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a new one. I'm gonna mark that down. I'm gonna look into it.
It's a great series of books that tries to make a unified theory of all the different conspiracy theories. But it's 20 years old now, so
Yeah.
it's, at that time I think it was tremendously interesting,
Yeah.
and now it will be hopelessly out of date. But
Yeah.
I still think it's worth reading.
That's cool. Okay. City or country?
Wow, these dualities are difficult because I like both. Oh, country.
Okay. Okay. Acoustic or electric?
Yes. I love both, and they both do different things. The main distinction between acoustic and electric guitar is the ability to play louder. I've definitely played to the largest audiences playing electric music that I have, but some of the most musical experiences have been all acoustic and, with only like maybe one or two other people present.
Okay.
So difficult,
Question.
distinction.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly in love with the American acoustic guitar, like the National Resophonic guitar
There you
being the thing that made me want to play. Made me like I want not merely to sing, but as a voice in itself.
Yeah.
That's the thing that it's the slide guitar played on a National Resophonic. That's a weird sound. It's not the most harmonious sound. It's not the warmest sound, but there's something about it. There's a ghost to it that is relevant.
Great way to say it. Because I really, really enjoy slide guitar. I love when people play resonator with slide, and one of my favorite sounds, and that's a good way to put it. Last one here. If you could be a professional at anything outside of music, what would it be?
Wow.
He's a real one. He's a real one.
Yeah. I think that in a alternate world, I might have tried to teach martial arts.
Okay. Badass.
Not like as a competitive fighter, because that's not the thing that I'm talking about. But body awareness and like
Coach.
Yeah,
Coaching.
because I taught Tai Chi Chuan for many years.
Oh wow.
And have a background in martial arts, which has been mainly about taking care of my hands as opposed to trying
Destroying them.
destroy them.
Yeah. Very cool. Guy, I can't thank you enough for doing this today, man. This was seriously a pleasure. It was a lot of fun. And like I said, pretty eye-opening too. So thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you for listening.
Absolutely.
And thank you for listening.
There we go. All right, we'll get you to do a performance and stop taking up all your time.
Sure.
Awesome. Let's do it.
This is a new song called Get Up. I wrote this with Mark Addison last week. True story. A little wood, a little wire, small Fender amplifier, slight magic made by hand. It was something I could understand. I got nothing from the place I was. School days just because somebody wants you in an office chair. Working why they don't see you there. But I have tasted the sacred wine, felt the tug when the stars align. There is only one God I know, and that's the one yelling, go cat go. So get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, let it go. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, let it flow. Oh, don't you think it's time to love the things you can't control? If you don't let it, you'll never know. little Fisher-Price record player, transistorized and prized soothsayer, vinyl from my parents' time, holy relics of rhythm and rhyme. I never had a lesson taught myself from a book from the library shelf. It had secrets that I need, and I would play till my fingers bleed on a borrowed guitar from a friend of mine. He lost both arms to a power line. He taught me how to tune it with his feet. That kind of love just can't be beat. So get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, let it go. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, let it show. Don't you think it's time to love the things you can't control? If you don't, you'll never know. I'm here to testify, I know I'm a lucky guy, just to have the chance to sing and play. This music, it ain't mine, but it's with me all the time, and I just wanna give it away. So that's what brings me here, tickling your ear. I hope you'll play with me, invest in ecstasy. You decide what you're about. You can sit, wait your sentence out, or you can live life like a song, and we can sing along. So get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, let it go. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, let it show. Don't you think it's time to love the things you can't control? If you don't, you'll never know. If you don't, you'll never know.